messages that have not been read by the patient yet. And then from here, you've got the quick action buttons as well, so they can click send a message from here, or they can start a consultation from here. So I'll go into this triage consultation later. So I'll just go back to the home page. And then just moving on to the health tab. So the health tab is where a patient would receive information from professionals they're sharing with, such as diagnosis and allergies. So if they've got allergies recorded on system 1, they would feed down into PKB. So if we just go into diagnosis, so you can see this test patient's got quite a few diagnoses. And you can see the privacy labels here as well. So you'll notice that at the bottom one, asthma, the patient's got options to view, edit and delete. And the reason for that is because they've added this asthma diagnosis in themselves. So they can edit or delete that self-diagnosis. So if you've got concerns about patients adding multiple different diagnoses, then you can see here that they've added it themselves, and you can click on as a professional and discuss with them. But if we click on yellow fever, for example, you'll see that the source was this test professional, Dr. Austin, and that's been actually fed down via a core system. So for example, if we use system 1, so on system 1, this test patient would have yellow fever on there, and then that's been fed down into PKB. So the patient can't edit or delete this diagnosis, but they can discuss it with a professional. And there you go, you can add the diagnosis here as well. And same as diagnosis, you've got allergies, pretty much a mirror of diagnosis. You can see here that the patient's added hay fever themselves, but this one here has been added via other teams they're sharing with. And then just moving on to symptoms. So symptoms is quite a powerful tool in PKB. You as professionals can ask patients to record their symptoms over a period of time. So if you use COVID, for example, you could ask a patient to record how their fever is, their coughing, breathing difficulties, whether they're mild, moderate or severe. Professionals can also add in symptoms as well. So if you're doing an online triage with a patient, you can go into that patient's record, which I'll show you later on, and add them symptoms in. And this is where patients can update their symptoms as well. So if this test patient was asked to have, let's use abdominal pain, for example, and record how they've been over the past week, they can just select the date, go back to last Tuesday, scroll to the bottom, click save, and then that would go into symptom history. Where are you? There we go. And the reason why it's coloured like that as well is if patients are colourblind, they'll be able to see holistically the bar chart views of symptoms, and it can be printed out as well without colour if need be. Did you guys get any of that over, Lisa? Or?
Yes, we did that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, is that pretty straightforward so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the training session anyway, I'll send you an email with a link to the manual, some useful videos and stuff as well. Obviously, I don't want to bombard you with too much information, but as long as it's making sense so far, that's great.
Yeah.
So I'll just move on to the measurements tab. So PKB supports up to 100 devices. So if you've got patients where you want to track if they're using MyFitnessPal, for example, and they've got cardiac issues and they're trying to lose weight, you can link up MyFitnessPal and ask them to link that up, and then you can view how their diet's going, exercise, and you can see here vitals as well. So blood pressure, for example, you can link up a blood pressure device to PKB and ask the patient to measure their blood pressure daily or a couple times a day. And then all you'll need to do is log into PKB as a professional, go into their record, look at their measurements, and then you can see their blood pressure results daily, which is quite a powerful tool. Patients can also add measurements themselves. So if a patient's been, for example, wants to record how they've been sleeping, they can add them measurements in themselves and discuss it with a professional. So let's use weight, for example. This test patient wants to discuss their weight with their GP. They can just select that, click discuss selections, select the recipient, and then send it over to the professional if they wanted to. And it's just very simple to add a device. So just click this button. We're on a test site at the moment, and then it will take them to a login screen. So MyFitnessPal, they'll enter their details, and then it will be synced up to PKB. Okay. Just moving on to the test tab. So this is where blood results can be sent over from, let's use Sherwood Forest for example, and they will display in this test results page of PKB. And whoever that patient's sharing with, so if they're seeing, I don't know, a private neuroscientist, for example, and they're getting results, and they can share it with other teams that they're sharing with. So if one patient's got you as a practice, Sherwood Forest Hospitals, and then they're seeing a private professional as well, then all that information can be shared. And another useful bit about tests, if a patient's going on holiday abroad, for example, and they get results and printed off, they can manually add it into PKB. So for example, we had a patient, I think they went on holiday in France, had to go into hospital, had some results done, came back, added them results manually into PKB, and then discussed that result with their GP, which is quite useful for patients. Just moving on to images, so PKB can connect to PAC systems at hospitals. So if they've been for an X-ray or MRI, that can be fed down into PKB, which would then be shared with whoever that patient's sharing with in PKB, and they can manually add in pictures themselves as well. Audio, same as imaging. Speech and language therapy, for example, they could record speech progression over time with a patient and add that into their PKB record, or the patient can themselves. And then the genetics tab, I won't worry about that, to be honest. It's just for genetic sequencing. We had customers in America that was keen on that, but no one's using that at the moment. Okay. So did that all pretty much make sense so far with the health tab?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I'm going too quick, because I do tend to talk quick sometimes, just give me a shout. I'll try and slow down a bit. Okay, so just moving on to treatments. So treatments covers care plans, medicines and libraries. So if we're just going into plans, so this is where care plans can be added for patients. So we've got, if we just look at the Respect Care Plan, for example, this is where practices, if they wanted a care plan created and then shared between primary care and secondary care, PKB is a useful tool to do that. And this is where a patient would go in, enter information onto the care plan. So if I just click on edit, they can just enter in information here, and then click save. And then that would sit in the plans bit of PKB. Coordinators can add in new care plans if they wanted to. So the main bit about care plans is PKB is it's shared care planning, because a lot of systems are restricted and they don't talk to each other. But within PKB, you can have one shared care plan across mental health, primary care, social care, etc. So that's quite useful. And a patient can obviously discuss care plans as well. So if they completed this Respect Care Plan, they could just click on discuss. That's in draft. But they would click and discuss, select the recipient they want to send it to, and then that professional would get a message. And then just going into medicines. So similar to diagnosis and allergies, you'll see here a patient can edit and delete that, and that's because the patient's added in aspirin themselves. But glucose, for example, has been added by a professional and it's come from a core system, system 1, for example, and they can't edit or delete that, but they can discuss a medication. So if you've got a patient, so sometimes patients get prescribed a lot of medications, that could sit in PKB, so they could look at it for reference. But if they're confused as to why they've been prescribed glucose, they could just select that and then click on discuss selections. And the patient can also see past medications they've had as well, which is quite useful if they're switching between practices. The patient can just look in PKB and go, this is what I was prescribed in the past and this is what I'm currently on, which was prescribed at my previous practice, which is quite useful as well. Excuse me. And then just moving into the library tab. So you as a practice, you would have coordinators, but Rebecca Wilkinson is going to be like a central coordinator for all practices rolling out PKB. So she'll go in and add some set standard library links, but you as a practice can update the library links at any time. So if you find something that might be useful for all your patients registered with PKB at your practice, you as a coordinator can just click on, well, I'm logged in as a patient at the moment, but you would go in and just click on add a link, and then that will be visible to all your patients. But you'll notice here that this patient can add in their own library links as well, which is quite useful. Okay. And then just moving on to the diary. So this is where patients can add in diary information to their PKB record. So if a GP wanted the patient to record how they're feeling, they can record that in PKB and add entries. And then once they've added an entry, they can notify the GP if they wanted to that they've added an entry into the journal. And then just moving on to appointments. So this is where, so eventually PKB will be linked up with the secondary care, social care, mental health and primary care within Nottinghamshire. And then the patient would have all their appointments feeding into PKB, which is quite useful for the patient. And obviously professionals they're sharing with can look into their PKB record and have a look at what upcoming appointments they've got as well. And the patient can add an appointment manually if they wanted to. Okay. And didn't want it mentioned yesterday, Kalpesh, about, is it Accurex, the chain SMS?
Yep, so we did have some, it was with regards to the video consultation side of things. Some practices are using AccuRx for video consultations. So the message there was that that could be launched through PKB. If the link was copied into PKB, a patient could click on that and they would launch that consultation from there.
So this is where you can, as a professional, and we'll go into the professional portal after this patient demo, you can either go into the patient's appointment tab and add it there, and then the patient would be notified via email that you've added a link to a video consultation, or you can directly send that patient a message, which I'll show you later on. Okay, files. Pretty straightforward. Patient can, if they've got thousands of letters, they could scan it and add it into PKB, or photographs or any other documentation. They can just add in any files into PKB for their reference, or they could notify professionals they're sharing with that they've got files in their PKB record. Devices, so this is just another page where they can link up their Fitbit device, for example. And then finally, we've got the sharing tab. I won't go into too much detail, but this is where a patient can see who they're sharing with. So you can see here they're sharing with this test site. But if they were sharing with an acute trust or mental health, then they would see all the teams they're sharing with. And then you've got add an individual. So I like to use a podiatrist for some reason, but if a patient was seeing a private podiatrist and they wanted to give them access to their PKB records, then they could invite that private podiatrist to view their PKB record in a nutshell. And then obviously they can add carers to their record. So if a patient is no longer able to monitor their PKB record, they can add a family member to give visibility on their PKB record. Pending is if they've invited any private professionals and passed. So if a patient's been registered at your practice, they move outside the area, and then they come back in a few years' time, they can see that they previously shared their information with you, and they can just give you back access straight away. And then finally an access log, so a patient can see who's been looking at what in their record if they wanted to. Okay, that's a very quick demo of the patient portal. Would that all make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So what I'll do now is I'll just show you that triage that is NHS England's mandated. So as a patient, I'll click on Start Consultation, and then it won't be called this on the live site, but this is because we've got multiple versions of this pre-consultation. The patient would select that consultation and click Start. And then at the top here, it would say click here to select recipients. So if they're registered at your practice, they would click here and select your practice team, which we'll set up shortly. And you'll just notice here, this is the standard form that's been rolled across practices in regards to a pre-consultation. So it's just going over this form will be reviewed by the surgery and staff who shall aim to respond within 2 working days. I think originally Calpesh was at 1, and that's been changed to 2 because of feedback.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And obviously it's just saying you must not use this service and you should call 99 immediately if you have any of these symptoms or issues. And then you've just got some questions here on COVID-19, asking if they've got high temperature or fever, and if they can just quickly select these radio buttons. Obviously here it's saying if you have selected yes, and then visit 111 online and go from there. But if no, they can just continue down. And then it's just asking, is this a new issue, follow-up query, prescription query, or other? So if this test patient's got a prescription query, then they would put in the information here. And then again at the bottom, you'll notice that it's just letting them know that this form will be reviewed within and be responded to within 2 working days. And we've got it again here as well. So it's just being clear to the patients that they're not going to get responded straight away, but they will get a response within 2 days. And the privacy label, so primary care is set up as default is general health, so that will be selected as general health as default. And then that patient would click submit, and then that would get sent over to your practice if that patient's registered. So that's the patient demo in a nutshell. Is there any questions?
I just wanted to ask, so are all hospitals, community teams, our district nurses, are they all set up for the PKB as well as now? Are they ready to go?
Not yet. So primary care has mainly been the focus. We went live with one team at Sherwood Forest Hospital about a week ago now. So eventually, over the next few months to a year, we'll start having more areas within Nottinghamshire set up in PKB. So at the moment, it's getting things ready and setting up because of what Calpesh mentioned earlier. There's been a mandate to get a pre-consultation triage solution for primary care mainly. But we are, Connected Nottinghamshire's focus is to get all the health cohorts up and running with PKB, and then it will be, a one solution where patients can share with all other professionals, and it's the same for practices as well. It will be beneficial for you guys going into a PKB record, and you can see information from mental health or social care, etc., instead of ringing about and waiting for things to be sent. So it's quite a powerful tool.
I've got a couple of other questions that I've just made a note of as well, if you don't mind. Can hospitals add medications that they start themselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay. And the other question was around family members' access. In theory, if we've got sort of children that are under age of 12, would the parents automatically have access, or is that something not in?
So if you wanted to if you invite children to register PKB, then you as a practice can add that parent as a carer to their record if that parent wanted access to their child's record. So what you'll do is go into that patient's record, go on share and add a carer. So on the manual I'll send you later, that's pretty much covers how to do certain things within PKB.
Yeah. So when they get to 12 at the moment with System 1 with our outline access, we can actually put in a end date to cease the access as per the GDPR guidelines. Is that something that will be, say, similar facility?
Yeah, so what happens within PKB at the moment is, I think it's 3 months before their 16th birthday, professionals, so you as a practice and your coordinators would be notified that that's happening. So they would say, this patient's 16th birthday is in 3 months' time, and this carer's access will be revoked.
Because we have to follow the GDPR guidelines, which is 12 years for us, and then we have to reassess the situation in combination with the patient.
Okay, so it's 12 years GDPR guidelines.
Yeah.
Let me get more clarity for you on that one, and then I'll email you later. I just need to double check because obviously GDPR is not my strong point. But if I get more information, I'll email you later and we'll get clarification.
That's great, thank you for that.
No problem.
And that's all my questions. Claire, have you got any questions?
No, I haven't.
Right, thank you.
Okay, so I've just sent that pre-consultation over to the professional, so I'm just going to log out as a patient now and log in as a professional. So I'm just logging into the professional now in PKB as a professional. So what we did was, for messages incoming into practices, the admin staff or yourself, Lisa, being the practice manager and the first coordinator, would be set up as a professional as well to triage incoming messages, which we'll be setting up after this demo today. So if we use Forest Medical, for example, the practice manager and one of the admin staff are set up as professionals as well. So when they get messages coming into the practice, if it needs response from a GP, then they would query with the GP and then respond back to the patient. So the admin staff is the core team triaging the messages. But it's your choice as a practice if you would like GP practitioners to be set up triaging messages as well.
Admin sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah. Okay. So as a professional, when you log into PKB, you can set a welcome message similar to the patient if you wanted to, but not a lot of customers using PKB don't really do that for professionals, but you can do if you wanted to. So we'll just go, you'll notice here, this is that pre-consultation that test patient sent earlier. So you'll get an email, you'll see it in the notifications here, but if you're going to the messages tab, as before on the patient demo, you'll see here that these messages are greyed out, and that's because they've been read, and this message here has not been read, and you can tell by that because it's got a white background and a green icon. So currently PKB are developing a solution for actioning and archiving, because obviously over time you're going to get multiple messages from different patients, and there's no option at the moment to archive or action messages. So what that means is, once that's been developed, which is due over the next, I think, 8 weeks, I believe now. When you get a message coming in, you can action that, which would assign that message to one of the admin staff set up as a professional. And then once you've finished dealing with a query from a patient, you can click on archive, and then that message would disappear from this messages screen, but you would have a filter here that would say archive. So if you needed to look back at messages within PKB, you can just click this filter, click archive, and then you can view it from there. So if I just go into this message, so this is the test patient that filled in that consultation earlier, and then you as professionals would respond back to that message. So they've got prescription query, we've just put test here. So for example, this test patient could have asked when would my prescription be ready for collection, and then you can triage that and just say will be ready for collection. Then click send, and then that would go back to the patient, and then the patient would be notified via email, or if they're already logged into PKB, they would get a notification on that welcome page. And then if we just go back into messages, you'll see now that that message thread has 2. So that means there's been 2 responses within that message. And then as a professional, you can send messages directly to patients, or you can start a consultation with a patient. So you might have a questionnaire in the future that you want to mass send out to all your patients. So for example, in London, they're doing a COVID tracking questionnaire, and they mass sent it out to 12,000 patients. So you as a practice can do that. Just going back on home. So to search for a patient, it's recommended just using the NHS number. Or if we just click go, these are all the patients that are registered at this training website. You'll notice here that this patient here, Mrs. Cien Clark, who's a test patient, they've not registered to PKB yet, and the reason why, and the reason you can tell that, is because you've got remind to register here. So if you've invited a patient and they're still not using PKB, you can search for that patient via NHS number and then remind them to register, which they would get sent another email to register with PKB. But if I just go back, this test patient here has registered, and you can tell that because you've got a reset password button here. So if a patient ever forgets their password, you can log in, search for that patient, and then click reset password. So I'm just going to search for history. Okay. So using the test patient from earlier, if we want to send them a message directly, you can just by clicking send a message. You can CC in other professionals. So, for example, as we discussed earlier, when more cohorts get on board with PKB, you can CC in a consultant from one of the acutes about a subject and send it to the patient, and then that professional over at the acute trust would get a message as well, which is quite useful. You can start a consultation from here, and as discussed previously, you can reset password. To go into a patient's record, however, you would search for the patient again. You can just see that their name's hyperlinked. You just click into that test patient, and then that will take you to their PKB record, where you can view their information. I'd ignore this timeline because it's a test patient, so there's been multiple things going on with this test patient. But if they've had appointments, you can click in and see what that appointment is. If they've had a virtual appointment, you can see here. I don't think I've got a document here as well. And if they've had an outpatient letter from one of the hospitals, you could look at that discharge letter. Let me see if it loads up. It's not loading. It's not here. There we go. And you can view that letter within PKB if you wanted to as well, which is quite good. you can see their, so it gives you a at a glance view, so you can see their demographics quickly, medications, allergies, diagnosis and plans. If you wanted to see who they've been having conversations with, you can view that. However, if a patient's, so you've only got access to general health, but if a patient's sharing with mental health, you don't have, you can request privacy access, but if you don't have access to mental health, then you won't be able to see that data point within PKB. You can go on health. So this is just pretty much what we went over earlier on the patient demo. So you can view the allergies, symptoms, etc. via going into the patient's record, and you know you're in the patient's record here at the top. So it'll tell you that you're in the patient's record. So we're developing, it should be released this week as well, a single sign-on solution within System 1 into PKB. So you can just directly go from System 1 and it will load up PKB in a new window and take you into that patient's record. But yeah, I mean, I won't go into too much detail of these other tabs because we've already covered it in the patient demo. But as a professional, you can go into that patient's record and look at all that information as long as they're sharing the relevant privacy label with you. Is there any questions on the professional view?
No, do patients have to be invited to join?
Yeah. So there's, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So something that we mentioned on the phone when we had that initial conversation was around inviting patients to register with PKB. I think I mentioned an option of the practice being able to invite patients as well. That was actually incorrect. The way that patients would be invited would be through an email that comes from PKB. But what the practice would have the option to do is maybe send an email out to the patients beforehand, or in the PKB email, there is an actual link to the Connected Knots PKB microsite. And basically, it's a website that provides patient information about PKB and gives them a lot of useful information and guides about how to use it. So in terms of getting the best use of PKB, if patients weren't emailed, I know that, I appreciate that you might not have lots and lots of emails saved, but...
We don't have any.
Oh, you don't have any?
We don't collect patients' emails to addresses generally.
Okay, so in that case...
Although,
yeah.
sometimes, just going to say, sometimes patients do update their emails through the System 1 access. I have noticed that.
And
so
does that go into your...
there.
So through your, because it's through your System 1 access, or their System 1 access, that would go into their record then, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yep. So in that case, I think even though you won't have that many, I think it would be worth adding them to the bulk upload. So you know the bulk upload that we said that can be centrally done by NHIS. Although you don't have that many email addresses, it would be worth getting a start on things.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'd be happy for us to do as part of the bulk upload? As I said, there would be that website there that gives them the information they need about PKB.
Online.
Is that something that you guys would be happy to do? Or for us to do even?
I'm afraid we've missed you a bit there.
Oh, sorry.
I'm really sorry. It's the connection is very disjointed.
That's okay.
So we're doing our best. So
yeah. So what?
I'll repeat.
Yeah, no problem. So what I was saying is, the process would be for, as part of the bulk upload that NHIS were doing for you, if you were happy with it, the process would be for PKB to upload the limited amount of email addresses that you have, and those patients would then be emailed to ask them to register on PKB. That email would be coming from PKB, but it will have a link to the Connected Knots and PKB microsite, and it's pretty much just a website with guides about how to use PKB from a patient's point of view. Lots of useful information. There's videos there explaining how the NHS app and PKB might be helpful for patients. And it does have a lot of useful information on there. But is that something that you'd be happy for us to do, to email out to the limited number of patients that you do have with email addresses? Sorry, did you lose me again?
I'm afraid again it's really disjointed. It may be that just after we've had this training that perhaps me and yourself could just have a telephone call in respect of that.
Yeah, no problem.
On a landline, and we'll just bottom that out if that doesn't, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. I'll give you a call immediately after this. And Rebecca from NHS, I'll obviously let you know what the outcome of that is as well. Thanks.
That's great. Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Real. So I mean that's pretty much an overview of the professional and patient demo. Lisa, you should have received an email from PKB asking you to register as a coordinator. Hello? Let me see if I can...
I think you're losing them.
Yeah, I think the connection's dropping.
Well, we've got you back now.
You got me back. I was going to... If we lose connection again, let me just see if you can see this chat. I've just sent a hello via chat. See if you get that come through to Microsoft Teams. Yeah, Brill. Okay. Can you hear me now, Lisa? Or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. You should have received an email from PKB asking you to register as a coordinator. I don't know if you've got that email ready, or if you've got it in your inbox at the moment.
I presume it's still be in my inbox. I haven't come across it yet, but I'll look for it.
Because the next steps now, because we've done the overview of the patient and portal, is to get you registered as the practice coordinator and then to invite Rebecca as well.
Right.
If you can't find the email, let me know and I'll get a reminder to be sent out.
Right, I'll check that.
I can get a reminder to be sent out if that's easy for you, Lisa. I can just quickly ask one of my team to send that out to you now, because we need to get you registered.
Yes, take that out and
Yeah.
Thank you.
Real, just bear with me a second. You should get a reminder shortly. It might be worth if you can share your screen, Lisa, and then we can guide you once you get that email come through, and then guide you on how to invite Rebecca as a central coordinator. If you can share your screen.
I've just shared it now.
Let me try. If you just try again, I think I was still sharing it.
Right. There we go.
we can see your screen, Lisa. It might sometimes when you click. Yeah, sometimes when you click share a screen, it will pop up with a box and ask you which. If you're using 2 monitors, it will ask you which desktop to share with. But if you're just using one, it should just say desktop 1, and then if you click that, it should start showing your desktop. Alright, okay. I've had a message back from my product team. You've already registered as a coordinator with PKB. So if you, let me see if I can get the link for you. Just pasted a link to the page, patientsknowbest.com. If you click on that link.
Right, okay. I don't think I can see it yet, to be honest. Can you see it?
I can't see.
I wonder if it's coming.
If you go back into Microsoft Teams, I've just pasted that link into there. If you go back on, it's at your bottom on your taskbar. There we go.
Yeah, I'm back in there.
If you click on chat, top left. Oh, I can't mark anything. To your left, where you've got files, calls, Teams, chat, activity, you've got like a notification.
Oh,
That's it, yeah. And then if you click on the top one from me, to your right, that's it. And then if you click on that link.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, my team's just confirmed you've already registered as a coordinator, Lisa. So your email address is lisa.ellison@nhs.net. But I don't know what password it would be, because this is a password you would have put in when you registered.
Oh dear. Let's try that. No. Just trying to think what I would have chosen.
No problem. Let me just check to see when your live site would have been created.
So, yeah.
It would have been around about, I'd say, end of February time.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I really can't remember.
If you click on forgot password, you would have actually have answered a security question. If you want to stop sharing your screen and try that forgot password process, and then see if you can reset your password via there. just let me know if you...
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to come in. Just didn't know. Here we go.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you should have got like a reset password.
Yeah, I mean, just log into that.
Yeah, once you've done that, let me know, and then we'll start screen sharing again and get Rebecca invited. Bro.
While Lisa's doing that, Kalpesh, can Rebecca and Kalpesh stay on after the session's finished?
Yeah, no problem.
Right, Ellie, finished now.
No problem.
I'm just going back in now to. I've registered. I'm on there, but I just need to share the screen now.
Yeah, no problem.
With you. I don't know whether you can see that now.
It's just loading. Right, okay, so you logged in now as the coordinator. So the coordinator is responsible for, inviting patients and professionals and stuff, but we've got Rebecca's going to be set up as a central coordinator to do the bulk upload of records anyway. So if you go on to the coordinators tab, so if you just click on the coordinators tab, okay, and then if you click on add a coordinator, so we're just going to add Rebecca first. Yeah.
Is she a Mrs. or a Miss?
Are you there, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm a Mrs.
Well.
First name?
It is, yeah.
Last name?
Wilkinson.
Email address?
It's rebecca.wilkinson at NOTS, NOTTS hyphen HIS .NHS .UK.
That's it.
Invite.
Yeah, and then once Rebecca's been invited, I've got Linda.Smith as another coordinator as well, Lisa.
That's right.
Yeah, if you just want to invite Linda as well. Always good to have more coordinators. So if you just click on Add Coordinator again, and then you can invite Linda.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, she's already registered, but not as a coordinator.
You know what? I might have done all this for all my staff actually already.
If you click on Coordinators tab,
Yeah.
let's see how. So we've just got Lisa and Rebecca at the moment. If you click on the Professionals tab, just top to your left, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go down, right, okay, so you've added quite a few professionals. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we advise obviously initially to set up either yourself and Linda as professionals to triage incoming messages. I mean, is Miss K standing a GP, or is she a admin staff as well?
Admin staff.
Admin staff. So if you're not registered as you're a coordinator, so will you be triaging messages as well, Lisa?
Not really, because I'm not a clinician. I can have an overview of them, but I wouldn't be making any decisions on them.
Because what would happen is you would have Linda and Kay and your other admin staff. They would receive, so you'd have messages coming in from patients, which the admin staff would triage their messages, so they could either respond to the patient directly without clinical input, or they would ask the GP, I think it's via a task on system 1, and then the GP would respond back to the admin to tell the admin what to say back to the patient. But it's up to you as a practice. Do you want all your clinicians to be contactable by patients, or
No.
no? So
Directly, no. We do it through tasks.
okay, so it might be worth if we have Linda as a coordinator as well. So
Yeah.
we've got an email alias set up. So what we'll do first is if you go to the top of the page again and click on coordinators.
Yeah.
And then if you click on add coordinator, but if you type in linda.smith again, but I'll give you the email in a second. So the email would be linda.smith44, but at patientsknowbest.com. Yeah, with an F, that's it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, .com, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you'll need to fill in her title, first name and last name again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you click on invite. Okay, so we need to set up an email alias, and the reason being is you can't be a professional and a coordinator at the same time.
Okay.
So Linda will have two separate usernames. So she'll have her NHS one where she logs in as the admin, set up as a professional to triage messages.
Yeah.
And if she wanted to go in as a coordinator, then she would log in with that linda.smith44 at patientsknowbest.com. So Linda would receive another email to register with PKB, so she can use the same password if she wanted to. You just got to remember that she will have two separate accounts. So the NHS one's a professional, and the Patient Know Best one is a coordinator. What I'll do is I'll just make a note, and when I get that question you asked earlier about GDPR, I'll just send information about Linda as a coordinator and professional.
Yeah, she's
okay.
got that.
Brilliant. So obviously you've been proactive and you've invited and registered your professionals at your practice, which is great. What we need to do now is make them non-contactable, but only make your admin staff contactable. So if you click on the professional tab,
Yeah.
okay, and then click on contact preferences at the top. So one of them quick action buttons again. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see here, no one's contactable at the moment, because when we set up a live site, we turn that off. So what we need to do now is go through staff, the GPs and the admin staff, and make them contactable. So did you want Nurse Carol Miller to be contactable by patients? It'll probably be best just to do admin staff at the moment.
Yeah.
But this is where you would go to change their preferences. So if you just make sure you've got the ticks on both sides, so you've got contactable by consultations and messages.
That was said it was contactable by consultations.
Yeah, so you know the consultation I went through earlier with the COVID symptoms and stuff?
Yeah.
It just means that the patient can send that consultation to the admin staff as well.
Yeah.
That's
that's all it.
Yeah,
for the admin staff.
And then if you click save, that's great. So what that means now is when patients get invited to register with PKB with your practice, when they select recipient, they can send a message, and then all the admin staff would get notified that there's a new message coming from your patient. In the future, if you wanted to...
Would they get...
Sorry, Lisa.
Would everybody get a message?
Yeah,
because
it's set up as team-based messaging. So,
yeah,
okay. I was mentioning that actioning and archiving earlier. So, what that means is, say if which one's contact. So, let's say Ellie Murden was managing PKB on tomorrow, on a Wednesday. Any incoming messages coming in, when that dev work's been done, she can click on action, and then that would say it's been actioned by Ellie Murden. And then once it's complete, she can archive it. And the same with Mrs. Janie Hanlon, they can action and archive it as well. It's up to you. I mean, we can create, if you don't want to do that now, we can set up a generic admin staff. So, you know, your practice has probably got a generic inbox.
Yeah.
You can either, it's up to you, you can either have all your admin staff receive messages. So once one patient sends a message in, they're all going to get an email to let them know that one patient sent the message. Or we can turn them all off as contactable and just set up a generic account. So they would log in as your generic practice email and triage messages. It's up to you what you would like to do.
It's going to be better to do it generically, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. And the good thing about that as well is auditing purposes. So you can see who's responded directly back to that patient if you wanted to share that as well.
Yeah.
But if you ever wanted to change that in the future, you'll just go on, log in as coordinator, go on the professionals and click on contact preferences and change it from there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just thinking, so if you go to the top, I'll quickly go over the coordinator portal with you, but Rebecca will be setting up your welcome message and stuff initially. So if you click on the patients tab, I'll just quickly go over these for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you can invite patients individually or add many patients. So Rebecca's going to do a clinical report and extract of your patients at your practice and upload them into PKB. But if you wanted to search for it, so if you've got a patient calling up and they wanted a password reset, you as a coordinator could go on the patients tab, click go and reset their password if you wanted to. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell for the coordinators. You can invite patients manually or add many patients, but eventually there's some technical work going on at the moment where data from your System 1 unit would automatically create records in the background, so you won't have to worry about that. It's to say, you won't have to worry about going into patients in PKB separately and updating their address, because eventually their address details will be updated automatically for you. Professionals tab, I think you find with professionals tab you've already invited professionals, but this is where you would go to invite more, reset their password, or remind them to register. So if we just click on the professionals tab again, I'll just quickly show you where they are.
I'm sorry, we lost you again. The network is really quite bad today. So sorry, which tab did you want me to go on?
If you just quickly click on the professionals tab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know how to invite professionals. Contact preferences is where you change their details. You can see on Nurse Carol Miller, she's not registered yet, and the reason being is because you can see that remind button. If you had Dr. Claire Ruffton leave the practice, you could deactivate her as a coordinator or reset her password. That's pretty much it for the professionals. Or you can edit their email. So if you've entered their email incorrectly, so if you use Nurse Carol Miller, for example, you can just click on edit and change their email if need be. So if you just go back up to the top.
Yeah.
Coordinators is exactly the same. It's where you would invite more coordinators. Just remember, if you've got one of your admin staff set up as a professional, then you would have to let Nottingham and PKB know if you wanted to set them up as a coordinator, because we would have to create an email alias like we've done for Linda. But the coordinators is pretty much the same as professionals. If you click on the institution tab, so you can see already Rebecca's put in that welcome message for your practice. But if you ever wanted to change that and add a bit more information in the future, you can do that. Below that, you can see information about your team. So not many, hardly any teams in PKB put any information in that. But if you wanted to, you could. So if you put in some practice details, when a patient sees who they're sharing with, then it will just give them a brief overview of your practice if you wanted to do that. If you scroll down a bit more.
Yeah.
I won't worry too much about the footer for emails. Welcome message to professionals. So this is where you can put a welcome message to the professionals of your practice if you wanted to. Okay, so if you scroll right back to the top again.
Yeah.
If you click on plans. So PKB can normally add in care plans for you. We've got a standard one called the All About Me one. But if you wanted a care plan creating, an asthma care plan, for example, let us know and we can create a care plan for you. Other than that, if one of the technical guys over at Nottingham are confident at HTML, they can create care plans as well. And then you as a coordinator can add that care plan into the practice if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I won't worry too much about statistics. If you click on consultations, so this is where you can send a mass consultation to your patients. So in the future, if you wanted to track something for all your patients, PKB can create you a questionnaire / consultation, and then you can send that en masse to all your patients if you wanted to, which is quite useful. That's what the guys over in London are doing with COVID. They're sending a mass consultation out to 12,000 patients every other day just to track their symptoms. And And then finally, if you click on the library link.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see Rebecca's already added in the links for the library as well. But if you wanted to, as a coordinator, this is where you would go to add in links to websites for your patients. You can add in folders. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the add link folder. I don't know if we've cut out. Hello? Can everyone else hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I think you've lost Lisa again.
Yeah, I think it's come back. Are you there, Lisa?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I think connection dropped again. So you can. This is where you would go to add in website links for your patients. You can upload files as well, so you could upload leaflets and stuff. But just be aware if you're uploading leaflets that they might become out of date quite quickly. So it's always recommended to use website links if you can. You can also create folders as well, which is basically you would create a folder, let's say asthma, and then you would go into that asthma folder and add in information about asthma. So you could add in asthma leaflets, asthma website links, etc. for your patients registered at your practice. But the library page is pretty straightforward. You've got edit and delete there as well if you wanted to edit and delete any information. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got the contactable set. Any questions?
The only one that, if we have a new registered patient, obviously you're uploading everything now,
Yeah.
or our patient base. So we've got a new patient that registers on System 1.
Okay.
Do we have to do anything in addition for those patients to get on Patient Knows Best?
So if Rebecca did the bulk upload today,
Yeah,
and then you had a patient register on System 1 tomorrow,
yeah.
then you would have to create them in PKB. So you would have to invite the patient. So if you scroll to the top and click on the patients tab again. But would you be inviting? I think there we go. Would you be inviting every patient to PKB at your practice as of today, or would it be a case to only inviting patients to register who've got an email address on their record at the moment?
I think we'd be starting off with the email addresses that we've got registered at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just moving forward, as we get better at this, then we may have a system of newly registered patients being automatically invited.
I mean, Kalpesh, I mean, the only solution I can think of is either doing a bulk upload every other week, or we can, if the development work is moving quite quickly, then they wouldn't have to worry about doing that.
So I think we're probably a couple of weeks away with the development work. So if you had somebody or newly registered patients, I think it probably would be worth registering them even after that development work's done. I don't think the email addresses are being uploaded by call, from my understanding.
No, so yeah.
Just a quickie, Kalpesh, that's what I wanted to speak about, because Karen said yesterday and told Rebecca and I and Sam that we're not to upload the email addresses because they haven't been confirmed that they are
so
they could have been changed.
We'll speak about that after this. We can have a catch up about that. In terms of newly registered patients, if they're invited, Cal, can that be done manually at this point?
Yeah, so
as in when they join the practice.
Yeah, so if you click on invite patient, Lisa, just to your right, that's it.
Yeah.
And then if you've got like an engaged patient there, you've got their email address, you would just put their details here.
Yeah.
And then you've got the email at the bottom, and then you would click on invite, and then they would be invited to register with PKB.
Yeah. So if that's made part of your process, Lisa, you know, when you onboard a new patient, if that could be sort of added to that process, or maybe give them some information about PKB. But again, if when that invitation is sent out to this patient, if you do manually send them the invitation, they will have that information about the microsite and about PKB. So they'll have a link to the microsite which tells them all about PKB and all of that kind of thing. So again, even if you send them the invite at this point for every patient that registers or newly registers, then they can still make that decision based on the information that they have. So there's no guarantee they will register, but at least they've been given the option.
Yeah. What about the IG type circumstances? Because normally we do ask patients to provide their photographic ID. I presume this is more essentially important that this is asked before we send an invite.
Yeah, so basically when you register a patient, obviously you'll be asking for the photographic ID and that kind of thing. Once the patient's registered in your system, we'll have a process in place in the background to upload the record of that patient to PKB. So once you're satisfied that the patient is who they say they are and they're added to your system and registered as your patient, then the other work will happen in the background, but it only happens after you register that patient. So as long as you've gone through the usual checks that you do as a practice, then the rest of it will happen in the background. But it's the same with any patient. We're relying on the practice to do what they usually do. So there won't be any difference from the PKB side of things, if that makes sense.
So if we can't establish their ID and we've got to register them, is there a way of not putting them, automatically uploading them, or when that becomes as a development issue, will there be something that we can exclude them until at such time that we have established it?
I think for the record gets created by the technical team in the background. So if you register them on your system, that does get created. But in terms of the patient, they wouldn't be able to. They'd be able to manually register. So if they registered with the NHS app, for example, in a couple of months' time, and went through all of the security there, and provided their photographic ID and whatever they need for the NHS app, then in a couple of months there will be a link through to PKB for them to register with PKB at that point.
Right, that's fine.
But from your side of things,
thank you. That's
just another thing to add, from your side of things, if you're not satisfied that the patient is who they say they are because you've not had a chance to check the ID yet, but you've still had to register them, then what I'd suggest in that situation is don't go through this manual process of sending them the email invite until you're happy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Is there any more questions, Lisa, or is that okay?
No, Linda, have you got any questions?
No, I can't think of any. So the only way they can actually register through this then is having an email address on the system?
At the moment, yeah. So it's what Kalpesh just mentioned. So eventually in the NHS app, if a patient's got a record created in the background, they could register via the NHS app. So what would happen is, say if a patient's got the NHS app and they've not registered, you've not invited them to register yourselves at your practice, but they've got a record sitting there in the background, that patient would be able to claim that record via the NHS app, and then that would register them and create a record, and then they'll be able to access PKB from there.
Right, okay.
Claire, have you got any questions? No? And does any of the staff want to raise a chat message for any questions?
So there is a one question, I'm not sure if it's covered, by Pamela Dawn. And it's probably a question for the practice, but when will this be starting? So in terms of the the upload and having that functionality available, the upload will be happening kind of after this call. So technically you'll be ready. In terms of inviting patients, I'll speak to Lisa after this. Lisa, as we discussed, I'll give you a call after this in about 10 minutes after the call. And then in terms of the advertising part, it would be worth making patients aware of PKB and sort of advertising. We can give you a bit of information about possible ways to do that kind of thing. And what we're advising at the moment is if patients went to that microsite, which again I can send you the link across for, that has got a lot of information for patients in terms of guides, how to use PKB, and as I said, videos and that kind of thing. So I'll also share that link with you, Lisa, after I've had that conversation with you.
Right, thank you. Right, thank you.
Brilliant. So what I'll do, Lisa, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for your time and everyone at your practice.
Right.
What I'll do is I'll chase up on that question about the child records and stuff, and then I'll send you an email with some useful information to the manual and some videos and stuff, so you can refer back to that in the future if you need to. Okay.
That's great. Lovely. Thank you very much today.
Thanks, guys.